Welcome, Shah, to this presentation. Anna and I are interning as legal assistants at Schiaparelli Law Group, and we'd like to ask you some questions for our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much for welcoming me, and we'll be glad to answer. I'll be glad to answer all your questions.
All right, so could you please tell us about the main types of visas?
Well, we can categorize the visas into three main parts, right? We have the family visas, we have the employment base, and we have the humanitarian base, right? So family base include petitions like marriage petitions, siblings, fathers, mothers, etc. And also you have also cases like where you have a special juvenile kids and things like that. But these are under special, but we can consider them like as family petitions. But then we have the second part, employment base, which is the one that we really focused a lot on in this office. You have those H-1Bs, then you have the green cards that goes O visas, L visas. But the employment base itself is divided into two. There are the non-immigrant visas and the immigrant visas. And then, of course, you have the third or humanitarian grounds, asylums, VAWAs, Violence Against Women Act cases, U visas, etc. So those are the main ones. Of course, there are other visas that people can come onto, like student visas, but those are non-immigrant visas.
Can anyone apply for a working visa?
Well, somehow, yes and no. Yes, because certain people qualify, and you don't know who qualifies. But most people who are under H-1Bs are for specialty occupations, and the specialty occupations requires at least a minimum a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
You have O1 visa for people of extraordinary abilities, L1 for intra-transferees, and we also have J1 for people who in certain industry like physicians can use J1. They are exchange visas. They are not really exactly working visas, but they can be used as such. And you have investors visas like e-visas, etc. But bottom line, yes. In fact, there's an interesting concept that people don't know about. I wanted to mention. There's a EB3 categories. EB3s are employment-based category green cards. A lot of people don't realize if you're not born in India or China, you file it, you have an employer who wants to file it. Even, for example, a truck driver, a cook, we can file it, and within 3-4 years, they can come straight on a green card to the United States. But it can, unfortunately, for India and China, it takes around 10 to 15 years. Although it's possible, it takes that long. But 2-3 years is not a lot compared to people who have been trying H-1Bs, for example, for years and don't make it to the lottery because H-1B has a lottery. So there, pretty much everybody can come, although you have to qualify, and this is where we come in to make it happen.
So what about people who marry green card holders or U.S. citizens? Can they just immediately come to the U.S.?
Well, they are immediate relatives, right? So you have a few ways to come. For one, you have the K1 visa, the fiancé visa. Once you're married, you cannot use a fiancé visa. But then, in order to come, there's a process. But if you're married to a US citizen, yes, you come pretty fast. And if you're already here, you can actually adjust status and get your green card from inside, depending what kind of visa you entered on. There are issues like intent, etc., that we take into consideration. But the answer is yes. If it is a bona fide marriage, that means a genuine marriage, they can come. If you are outside, it's a three-step process. Number one, I-130. The I-130 is approved. The case goes to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center, then they have an interview at the U.S. Embassy. And if everything goes fine, they come. Now, if they're inside the United States, we're dealing only with one department, Department of Homeland Security, where we file all the paperwork here in the United States, and they get their green card here. The answer is, it's not very difficult, but it's a lot of paperwork.
Okay, so we can help them come here or make them stay.
Yes, of course, we can help them on all the aspects, right? For example, people coming here as a student visa, we can, and they get married to a US citizen, we can keep them. People coming as student visa, they can even file that category I was talking about, EB3 straight, don't even go through the H-1B. We can help them on that one. Once they are here, you have the jurisdiction of the United States. There are a lot of more power, but of course there are certain visas you cannot do much. Like for example, the Sea Crew visa, you're kind of stuck with it. You cannot do much with it.
Mm-hmm. So what about students?
Well, students are probably the most, apart from the visitor visa, Students are the biggest category in terms of how many people come to the United States. It's a big industry. Students have a lot of options. Most people coming here, they study, ultimately they get good jobs, especially in the IT sector. We're in the Silicon Valley, and we transfer them to H-1Bs, ultimately if they make it to the lottery. By the way, H-1B has a lottery. Then O1 visa, you name it, there are other visas. And of course, then there is a process called the green card process, which is through a labor certification. The labor certification itself is the first step. Once the labor certification is approved, then it's a Department of Labor. It goes to the USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, for the I-140. And then ultimately, if their dates are current to the visa bulletin, they can actually file for the green card. So there's a lot of potential for students. Many students get scared when they come here. Hey, I don't have opportunities. Yes, you do. But make sure you do the right thing. Go to a school that is reliable. File your paperwork on time. Especially after you graduate, you have something called OPT, which allows you to work usually for 1 year. And then after that, if you're in the STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, you can get an additional of 2 years, which was something that Obama really put in the system. And after that, of course, once the company is really needing you, they will probably go for an H-1B, etc. So there are many options, but the truth is that you need reliable people to work on those. And that's where we have basically kind of shine in our industry. We have been able to put together cases that are very difficult sometimes, and we win, and we're very happy about that, and I'm very proud of our team for that. But the entire situation, there are many options, let's put it this way, but good options are only for people who qualify for it and people who have good lawyers to work on them.
But Shah, for like students or people coming on working visas, I thought that they can't have immigrant intent. They're supposed to go back, right?
Yes, that's a good question. Under INA 214B, you cannot have an immigrant intent. That means you have to prove you're going back to your home country. However, going back to your home country, if your intent is from, I always say that, this is the border, this is your country, this is America. Once you enter, you change your intent, you're okay. But if you make your intent from here and you're really trying to cross the border, then it can become a problem. Mm-hmm. The question, how do you prove intent? It's about how you behave, what you brought with you, etc. That's a different issue you need to discuss with your lawyer. But once you're inside, you change your mind, you're kind of okay.
Okay. So from what I understand, all visas require some sort of petition. So what if you don't have a petitioner?
Well, most visas do require petitioner, like employment-based mostly. But some visas, amazingly, don't need, like EB1 categories. It's a self-petition. These are for people of extraordinary abilities, people who have publications, are good in their fields, etc. And sometimes they don't even know they are. They don't need that. And national interest waivers, people who are of national interest, we can also do that without petition, without a petitioner. And also you have cases like where people are abused and they were in a marriage with a US citizen, then it becomes a self-petition. But the most interesting ones are the EB1s and the national interest waivers. You don't need a petitioner. And of course there's a U visas, people who are victims of crimes, they also don't need a petitioner, they are self-petitioning. But to answer your question, you're definitely right. Most of the time you need a petitioner.
Okay, can we file a green card directly from abroad then? If this is the case, then why do the individual themselves have to be there?
That's a good another good question, because you don't need to be here to file it. For example, a lot of people believe you have to be an H-1B or O1 visa, then you can file a green card. The answer is no. Like I was talking about earlier, EB3 categories or even EB2 or EB1, we can file it, and the difference is that the process will be done at the US consulate, the last step. But no, you don't have to be inside the country. But if you're in the country, you can do an adjustment of status. It makes it easier. But you don't really have to be in the country to file, and that's where a lot of people get confused. But of course, if you're doing an EB3 category, for example, you need a petitioner. That's the most important part.
Could you please tell us some success stories?
Well, we have a lot of success stories, right? We have very difficult cases. I remember a national interest waiver we had back in the day, someone who really was not sure, he just tried it like that. And by the time we were processing the case, something bad happened in his country. He needed to get out. And luckily, at the same time, the case got approved. We were able to process it, and that person came to the United States. Another cases we had were people who were abused by their spouses. We got them green cards. Now they're successful people. We have cases of L1 visas where we just had one a few months ago where within 1 week it got approved. We had EB1s, a lot of EB1s. One EB1 got approved even in 24 hours, I think 48 hours. So we have a lot. We have handled, I can't really count, maybe 3,000-4,000 cases. And I have advised almost maybe 8,000 to 9,000 people. But we have good success stories. Our reviews speaks for themselves, and you can check it on all those great websites like avo.com, etc.
Okay, thank you so much. And with this, we conclude this presentation. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Shah. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Just a piece of